Steak frites. This French classic is loved and adored by people all over the world, and for good reason. It just works. It's a match made in heaven. So today I'm gonna run you through not only how to cook the perfect steak, but also how to break down a sirloin to save yourself some money. I'm gonna show you how to make the perfect French fries, and I'm gonna show you two different sauces, the peppercorn sauce and my personal favorite, the entrecôte sauce. Let's get stuck in. First up, I'm gonna break this beautiful piece of meat down. Now I think that the sirloin is the perfect steak, not only for steak frites, but also to teach yourself some basic home butchery. And why? Because it's kind of pretty easy to pull apart. I did a short on this the other day that showed you how to do it. And if all else fails, you can just cut this into steak. First of all, getting this chain off the back, just by finding the seam, and you can kind of just pull it away with your fingers, and that should just come away. And cut that off. Now, what do you do with this? You can trim all this fat off the sides and render it out. We're going to use beef fat later for the chips. And you could potentially dice all this meat up and use it for stir fries. To be perfectly honest with this, I just give it to the dog, makes great dog food. Same on the other side, usually has a big piece of fat here. This is like the good end of the sirloin, not the other end's the bad end, but you have a piece of fat that runs all the way down here to this part. We're just going to trim that right off. You can just leave that in there, but I prefer to trim it off. I also like to keep the fat from this and render it down. So take that off. There is a bunch of good meat in there actually, which I will pull out and save for a stir fry. And then we're just gonna trim all the silver skin and fat from the bottom. Get a boning knife, poke it through, and take it off. Then once you've got the bottom relatively well cleaned up, you can do the same to this side here. There's lots of silver skin on the side. Just clean that all off. There you go, simple as that. That is ready to start portioning. Sometimes you can have a really thick fat cap on here, which you can trim down if you want. I prefer to do that once I've cut my portions. It's easier to kind of have a really even fat layer there. So there's a couple of benefits to doing your own steaks at home. You can cut them as thick as you want them. You can also save a bit of money. It's a lot cheaper to do this yourself than get the butcher to do it. So I like to do them about 2 fingers thick, which should be about 350, 400 gram steak. So I did a short video on this not long ago, and the most common question was, well, how much does that cost? Well, actually that's an annoying size right there. It's kind of too big for one, not big enough for two. I'm just gonna trim it, trim off that edge, keep that side for stir fry. And then we've got a nice steak there. So like I was talking about cost, this is clearly very good steak. This is Wagyu, Australian Wagyu, marble score 6 to 7, really nice steak. This stuff usually goes for, in your butcher shop, in a whole format, about $100 a kilo. It's not cheap stuff. You can probably get it cheap. You probably get it for 80 if you go to like one of the bulk butchers. But a sirloin will run you anything from $30 to a kilo to $150, $200 a kilo. To be perfectly honest, I think that sweet spot is somewhere around the middle. I really like a Black Angus product like Ebony that I think has like a decent marble score, 1 to 2, nothing crazy, and you're gonna get it for about $35, $40 a kilo. Today, I'm lucky and we've got this beautiful Wagyu. Okay, we're gonna season these with salt. What a surprise. Cooking salt, this is what you call in the States kosher salt. It's evaporated sea salt, it's not iodized, it's got nice thick grains. So we're gonna season it well on all sides. I'm a purist when it comes to my steaks, especially with sauces like this. I only use salt, I don't like pepper. I find pepper burns. If you do like pepper, that's perfectly fine. Put it on as well. So to temper or not to temper your steaks is kind of a bit of a subject at the moment, I think, online. Truth be told, if I'm cooking at home, I probably don't often temper my steaks. I'm gonna temper them today purely because I'm gonna season these, leave them out to dry brine, and I'll just do that at room temperature. We'll probably cook these steaks in 45 minutes to an hour. So there's no kind of risk of it coming up and spoiling. I think tempering does make a difference. I think that the theory that it kind of like shrivels up and tenses, I think that's kind of debunked. But I do think you get a more even cook on your steak. Yeah, that's my theory. I'm just a humble chef, not a food scientist. Well, those are seasoned well. Just gonna leave those aside, and then we're gonna start making our chips. All right, French fries, or alamettes. I think that's what they call them in French, alamettes. Someone will tell me if it's wrong. Sebago potato, that's what we use in Australia. Well, I like to use it when I'm here in Australia. I've just peeled these, left them in some water so they don't oxidize. Cut one flat end off so that you've got a flat surface to work with, far less dangerous. And then cut your chips. You can get one of those fancy chip cutters, but I think I kind of like the imperfection of hand cutting them. I do peel my potatoes. I quite often don't peel my potatoes for chips, but when I'm making French fries, I do. So you want them about 1 centimeter square, I think is the perfect French fry. Any smaller, I think you struggle to get that fluffiness in the middle. Any thicker, and it's not really a French fry, it's more a pot neuf. or a fat chip or a steak chip. Anyway, cut those, and then we're gonna put them into some water so that they don't brown. So this is Nagi's recipe from Recipe Tin Eats. The link below will be to her website with this recipe. We're gonna use some vinegar when we cook them, which helps it to get nice and crispy. Nagi's a legend. All right, we're just gonna rinse these underwater for 3 to 4 minutes just to get rid of some of that extra starch and sugar. So drain the water off, fresh water, and onto the pot, cold water. We're gonna start these in cold water. To the water, we're gonna add a couple of tablespoons of vinegar, generous pinch of salt. We're gonna turn this heat on full. We're gonna gently stir these as they're cooking. We're just gonna bring them up to the boil once. As soon as they're up to the boil, we'll take them off and we're gonna drain them well. All right, now's a good time to start talking about fat or oil. This is what I think is the ultimate thing to cook chips in. This is Wagyu beef tallow. It doesn't even need to be Wagyu. I just think cooking in tallow makes a huge difference. I can hear you, it's not that easy to get. It's not super common in Australia yet. I know in the States there's like the Chicago Meat Packers one, you can kind of get, it's pretty regular, pretty easy to get I should say. In Australia, we are trying to kind of sort that out, but you can just render your own. If you make a lot of meat stuff at home, you got a lot of trimmings, just collect all your trimmings, keep them in your freezer, render down your own fat. If you want me to do a video on rendering fat, let me know in the comments and I can kind of pull a quick video and a tutorial on how to do that. It's really not that hard, but I think tallow is the way to go. If you don't want to use tallow, you got a vegetarian in your family or something, or you can't access it, I think peanut oil works really, really well, or any oil really, canola oil, vegetable oil, all the Fitspos will get angry, but I'm not a food scientist, I'm just a cook. My preference is beef tallow, and if you're not going to use an animal fat, then I would suggest using peanut oil. Anyway, we're gonna fill this up and get it up to temperature. Okay, so we're gonna start with that much and let it melt down. The reason being, we don't want this to be too full, because if it's too full, it's just dangerous, right? We want this about no more than sort of 60, 70% full. That way when we're putting chips in, it doesn't kind of go everywhere. All right, now this has come to the boil. We're gonna take it off, drain it really well, and then dry these chips. Now we need to get these really dry, and the easiest way to do that is to put it between 2 tea towels and dry them really well. Single layer, worth mentioning, still construction here. Sorry if you hear a saw. It'll be worth it, I promise. In the coming weeks, you will get a video out there. This steaming action is good too, helps them dry out a bit. So these should be like holding their shape, but you should eat it and go, that's almost cooked, not quite, but you can still eat it, if that makes sense. I'm not sure if that's a valid way to describe something on a YouTube channel, but we did it. Okay, so from here, we're gonna fry these at 200 degrees for 3 to 4 minutes, just to kind of set the outside. And then we're gonna kind of cool them right down in the fridge or at room temperature. At that point, after the first fry, you can freeze them. Save them for later, save them for a rainy day when you're hungover or whatever. Then we're gonna do the second fry when our steak's resting. So these won't take long to cook the second time, 4 to 5 minutes max at 200 degrees. We're gonna fry them twice at 200 degrees, which is hotter than you would normally do like a triple cooked chip, but it does end in a better potato. So from here, small batches, we carefully lower our spuds in, let them settle for a couple of minutes, and then we'll give it a little mix. So about 4 minutes later, you can see we've got a nice blonde color, nice and light. We'll put them onto a rack, let them drain really well and just cool down. And then rinse and repeat until they're all done. Yummy. All right, peppercorn sauce. This is probably the easier one of the two sauces. It is delicious, but I think the other one's my favorite. We got a pan here. We're gonna use the same pan, and we're just gonna toast some peppercorns. So black peppercorns, and optionally some pink peppercorns. We are gonna use some green peppercorns as well, but we don't need to toast those. So we're gonna toast these and then we're gonna just pound them in a mortar and pestle, because I think you're gonna get, I like a nice coarse pepper. So medium heat, just toast those nice and slowly. While they're toasting, a couple of shallots, just gonna finely dice. Why am I crying so much at the moment? Really at tune with my feelings. Heat off. Oh, here. Is this recording? Like a challenge, can you cut onions without your eyes open? Don't do that, it's a bad idea. All right, mortar and pestle. There we go. And we're just gonna crush these. We don't wanna go like super fine, we just wanna break down that outside husk. And fresh is the best, don't buy that pre-ground stuff. I know the barbecue guys love it. I think it's much better to do your own. Anyway, in this pot, still got a little bit of heat in it, we'll see how much. A good amount. Some butter. We're also gonna add a little drizzle of olive oil. And our shallots. Just gonna saute those down with a pinch of salt. Shout out to Alex, French guy cooking. This is his little copper pot. I'm a big fan of this pot, it's great for sauces. I don't know if you can buy them anymore or not, but Big fan. All right, it's really important we do actually cook these shallots out. We don't want raw shallots, and we're trying to extract the sweetness from them. So you can do it two ways. You can do it really slowly and take your time, or you can do it pretty hot and just kind of make sure you don't leave it. You're got to keep it moving if you're gonna do it hot. I also like a lot of shallots in the sauce. I think it adds a nice body to it. Otherwise, you just end up with heaps of pepper. Cool, turn that heat down a bit. Once you think your shallots are good to go, for me that took about, I don't know, a minute and a half on really high. We're gonna add our ground up peppercorn, stir that through. Then we're gonna add our green peppercorns. And now I'm gonna turn the heat back up. At that time, someone's gonna start drilling something in the side of the studio. That's all good. This is real life. I'm gonna add our brandy. Be careful, it's probably gonna flambe. Woo, woo, woo. Guess what's gonna be really hot now? That handle, don't touch it. You do want to flambe this really if you can, but just be safe. I have got a big extraction up here. I'm not going to burn anything down. So once that's finished flambeing, at some point, you want to reduce that liquid right out basically. Oh, there we go, it's out. And now we're going to add beef stock. Okay, we're going to bring that up to a simmer. We're going to reduce that beef stock by at least half. All right, so our sauce is almost good. It's reduced by well over half. So we've got some nice viscosity, nice and thick here. All we need to do to finish that, is just add a little bit of cream. Just a little touch. You want to use thickened cream. Thickened cream in Australia, heavy cream in the US. It has gelatin in it, and what that's going to do is stop the sauce from splitting. You also don't really want to boil that much longer. And that's our sauce done, peppercorn sauce. So we're going to leave that to one side, and we'll give it a little flash to get it a bit hotter again when we're ready. But next up, probably one of my favorite sauces of all time, l'entrecôte. Famous French restaurant. There's also a version of it in Melbourne. I worked there, I opened the city version of that. So I know the sauce pretty well. However, this is kind of my slightly adjusted version of it. The actual entrecôte sauce that we used to make there has a lot of ingredients. It was something like 50 something ingredients. So we kind of toned that back a bit, and I think you get a pretty close second. So effectively, it's a herb-based sauce and emulsification. So we're gonna start with the butter. First of all, we need to kind of get some shallots nicely sauteed. Put a saucepan over some heat. We're gonna add roughly a quarter of the total volume of butter. To that, we're gonna add our shallots, and we're just gonna slowly, or not so slowly, saute those down until they're nice and soft. In the meantime, let's run you through the rest of the ingredients. Flat leaf parsley, sage, tarragon. Tarragon can be tricky to find sometimes. Fresh is always better. If you can't find the fresh, don't stress, just get some dried stuff. Worcestershire sauce, some capers, some Dijon mustard, a little bit of lemon for some acid, and an egg for it to all to come together. One more ingredient, some freshly grated nutmeg. All right, so I'm gonna grate my nutmeg straight into my shallots, just so that kind of helps toast it and open that nutmeg up a bit. And I've forgotten one ingredient, unbelievable. Anchovies. Don't freak out if your girlfriend or your boyfriend or your sister or production manager or whoever doesn't like anchovies, they won't taste them. Just don't tell them they're in there. So I got about 4 or 5 anchovies into there, and that will just help break down in that heat, break them up a little bit. They just add a really nice depth of umami. Real it word, isn't it, at the moment, umami? But nice salty flavor. Our shallots are cooked, they're nice and soft. Anchovies are broken up. Our nutmeg is nicely toasted. Turn that temperature off, add the rest of your butter. What we're trying to do is melt this butter. We're not trying to heat it up, we're not trying to cook it, we're not making burnt butter, we're making emulsification. So we want to melt that butter. So we've got a jug of a blender. If you've just got a hand blender, you can use one of those too. We're just going to add the egg yolk. That's what's going to emulsify our sauce. Some mustard. You should use your Dijon for this, but I'm going to be naughty and use some English because I think it's good, especially this English mustard here, Newman's. I don't know anything about this company, but they make great mustards. Some capers. So you want about a tablespoon of drained capers. Do you know one thing I hate about capers? You need to get a tablespoon out of here. It's so annoying because then you end up with, you either ditch all the liquid, then you've got dry ass capers in your fridge and eventually go off. Or you do this weird thing where you pour them out and then you're trying to get them back in. Surely there's a solution for this. Come on, caper companies. Can you sort it out, please? Lemon, juice off. Try not to get the seeds in there. Our parsley, tarragon, sage, Worcestershire sauce. All right, we're just gonna blend this before we start adding the melted butter. So once we've got the base of our emulsion ready, we can start pouring in our butter, shallot and anchovy mixture. Now it's important that's not really hotter than blood temperature. You should be able to put your finger in there and it not scald your finger. If it's too hot, it's gonna cook the egg. and then it's gonna split everything. Also have a little bit of water handy, kind of room temperature or tepid water. If it starts to get too thick, you're gonna have a chance of it splitting also. Just use a little bit of water to let it down. You don't want it too thick. And at the end, you're looking for a sauce that's the consistency that's pouring, but not as thick as mayonnaise. All right, it's crunch time. Quick recap, our chips are ready. They just need another fry. Our steaks are good to go. We've got our sauce, whatever one you want, one or the other, both up to you. We've got a pan, cast iron pan, over a high heat. First things first, we're gonna make sure we pat these steaks dry. The enemy of a good crust is moisture. So they're seasoned all the way through. The salt has turned into a liquid. It's been penetrated into the pores. We don't need to add any more salt to that. We will put a little bit of finishing salt at the end. Nice and dry. We've got our pan, should be ripping hot by now. We're gonna add some tallow. Why? Just to up and emphasize that beefy flavor. Probably a little bit too much, but hey, we'll roll with it. First thing we do, start to render that fat cap down. So I'm a flip often type of steak guy, as opposed to the one flip method. Why? Because I think you get a more even cook, and it gives you more time to develop a crust. Because when you flip, it lets the temperature on the outside come down slightly, so you're gonna build a better crust before it burns. When these are resting, these are gonna rest for 4 or 5 minutes at least. We'll start doing our fries and our sauce is ready to go. But we'll just render that outside cap first. Once it's rendered, down they go. You can use a little bit of weight just to help get a more even crust as well. While your steaks are cooking, make sure your oil's coming up to temperature. You want it hot, you want it like 200 degrees hot. So I like to flip about every 60 to 90 seconds. I like my steaks medium rare, so I'm gonna pull these off at 46 degrees Celsius, and they'll rest the rest of the way. They'll come up about another 5 or 6 degrees easily. So that's where I like to take it off. People often get frustrated at me because it's kind of quite different across the internet. I stick to my temperatures. They're all listed below. They'll also be right here. Make sure you're controlling the temperature of your pan as well. This idea that you want your pan as hot as it can get the whole time is kind of not that true, I don't think. You can see here it's starting to get really smoky. You know, now that the temperature, the outside temperature of the steak's up to temperature and we're getting a good kind of sear, that oil is gonna start getting even hotter. So I've just turned the temperature of that pan right down. And by all means, if you want to cook your steak on your grill or your gas barbecue, whatever you've got, then I think it's more than acceptable for steak frites. I chose to do this in the pan method today because everyone has a pan. Well, maybe that's not true. Almost everyone watching this video, I hope, has a decent cast iron pan or a decent pan to fry a steak in. Not everyone has access to a barbecue. All right, these are pretty close. We're gonna rest it on a tray with a rack. And if we need to flash it to get it hotter again in the pan, we can definitely do that. All right, I'm gonna pull these. So we're gonna rest these for a good 5 minutes, if not longer. I'm probably more prone to resting them for like 10 minutes. See here, we've got a good char on the outside. They should come up nice. Time to get those chips in for that second fry. So what we're looking for here is to develop that good golden color, the crunchy outside. We know we've got a nice pillowy soft middle. Just need to get that outside going good. Oh, look at that. Golden brown delicious. Make sure you season them immediately. That'll help soak up any of that extra fat that's come on them. All right, time to carve. We're gonna slice our steak. Big fan of slicing steak. Makes it easier at the table. On an angle. The big reveal. How did I do? Stunning. And I like to fan it out, like so. We'll just let that do its thing. There is gonna be a bit of hemoglobin coming out. The other thing I like to do is just to dab it onto like a chucks or a paper towel before you put it on the plate, and it stops it from getting, you know, your plate getting mucked up. The other thing I always do is make sure that the fat cap is on the inside, because the first bite that you have, you don't want to eat a big piece of fat. I mean, I love eating a big piece of fat like that, but some people don't. You do want your first kind of bite to be special. Pile your chips behind your steak and then choose your sauce. So here's the Entrecôte sauce. This sauce is one of those finicky sauces that needs to be kind of kept at room temperature, which means you kind of can't keep the sauce, unfortunately, because as soon as it gets chilled, it's gonna split. And your peppercorn sauce, or steak à pois. There you go, steak frites with 2 different sauces. And I'll tell you what, I'm pretty hungry and pretty excited to eat this. We'll taste them both, and I'll choose my favorite. They look pretty good. First of all, the chip. Nice crunchy outside, soft pillowy inside. Great flavor. That peppercorn sauce is really good. Very savory, a little bit spicy almost from all those peppercorns. Delicious. But I could almost give it to the sauce without even tasting it. I have tasted it, so I guess it's cheating. It's delicious. It's herbaceous, a little bit sweet from those shallots, vibrant, lots of umami, lots of salt. For me, that's probably the perfect steak sauce. This is perfect date night food. If you make this for the person you love, I guarantee they'll love you forever. Thank you so much for watching, legends. Like this video, if you took anything from it, subscribe if you're not, and we'll see you next week for another recipe. Excuse me while I go gorge myself on beef and chips.